Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast with Kevin Harrington and Seth Greene. Kevin Harrington is the inventor of the infomercial, one of the original sharks from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and has generated over $5 billion in TV and digital direct response sales. Seth Greene is the world's first trusted authority on cutting-edge direct response marketing, a best-selling author, and the only 3-time Marketer of the Year nominee. On the podcast, Kevin and Seth interview sharkpreneurs who share straight talk on what it takes to explode your business.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com.
Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast. This is your co-host, Seth Greene. Today, I have the good fortune to be joined by Preston Smiles. Preston is an abundance coach, a spiritual coach who helps people step into their most abundant life and heal their trauma. He is a best-selling author. He is a podcaster. He's got hundreds of thousands of followers on social media and millions of views on his content that is life-changing. Preston, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, and more. Yes, Seth, thank you for having me. Exciting times.
Yeah, absolutely. It is our pleasure. I know your story is on YouTube. I know it's in the book. A brief version for our listeners to get them excited. How did you get started and how did you become the Preston Smiles that people follow and can't get enough of today?
Yeah, man, there's so many chapters to the Preston Smiles story, but the cliff notes are, like many of us, I grew up in, the Western culture where I heard big boys don't cry and man up and all that kind of stuff. And instead of processing any of that, I repressed it for quite a long time. And when I was 25 years old, I had a heart condition that came up and I didn't want to die. And that forced me into a radical transformation, which then became a calling, which then has led me all over the world. And at one point, I was 11 years ago, I was a surf instructor, teaching surf lessons on Venice Beach. And, I now am sitting on a multi-million-dollar property, one of 5 that I own, and have just experienced a wide spectrum of abundance. And that's why I'm writing this book, and it's Spiritual Millionaire, because there's a lot of people who are tuned in and tapped in who haven't built the bridge for like truly receiving abundance on all levels and not just financially.
Amen to that. Why do you think there are so many if you go on Amazon, there are probably thousands and thousands of books on the topic, millions of videos on YouTube. Why do you think there's so much misinformation, so much noise? Why do you think people have so many issues bringing their life to where they want it to be, which you're a shining example of someone who's done it?
Yes, I think it comes down to one thing and one thing only, and that is the nervous system, AKA the body. You see, we can declare anything till the cows come home, but if our bodies aren't on board, because we're threefold beings, body, mind, and soul, right? Head, heart, 3 centers of intelligence, head, heart, gut. If my mind says, I want to be a best-selling author, I want to make millions of dollars, I want to X, Y, and Z, but my body has the felt sense of fear, lack, limitation, scarcity, trauma, right? Acute trauma, like blunt trauma, all these things that have occurred, then no matter how much I talk about it, right? We see this every single year. Come December, the end of December, going into January 1st, everybody declares something, and yet they find themselves within 3 weeks right back where they were. Well, in my work, we say you can't intervene in a world you can't see. And each and every one of us is a world. And so our job is to build a somatic body, which means soma. Soma means the wisdom of the body. Build a somatic body that can hold what we say we want and then some. Because a lot of people can attract, right? It's the lottery winners thing. Lottery winners can attract the money, but can they keep it? Is it a part of their identity? Have they built a body to hold that money and to use it to become more abundant? The answer is usually no. And so to me, a lot of this stuff comes back to freeing the body through the nervous system.
Okay, so that's really, really fascinating and something that hasn't been talked about a lot. So I love that you elucidated the difference in that, you can, I have a Ferrari, I have a Ferrari, I have a Ferrari.
Yes.
But if I don't get off my ass and work, if my body is used to a lifetime of treatment of fear and scarcity, then they all have to be, you're saying they all have to be congruent, body, mind, soul, all have to be firing on all cylinders, all going together. And you're talking about the body as being the place where the majority of our stress and fear probably lives.
Correct.
Okay, so how do I retrain my body after 20, 30, 40, 50 years
Yes.
of the opposite of what I really want? How do I unlearn all of those bad habits, those emotional records that keep playing over and over and over again to get to the point where I'm all congruent and then think magic happens?
This is huge. I just yesterday was in a workshop where we do this, and we're not the only people who do it. We just are the best that do it. It's called the bridge experience. Whether you work with us or not, here's what I'll say. The first step to any true change/transformation is the decision that it's possible for you. So if you're hearing this and you're going, okay, I've quote unquote mastered this aspect of business, right? But when I go home, my wife doesn't feel like I've mastered that. When I look at my kids, they don't feel like I've mastered that. The first step is to say, well, I can. If I could in business, I could do it here. If I could in lifting weights, I could do it here, right? The game is to create, and of course, in our bodies. And the first step is deciding that you can. Second step is doing our best to, again, going back to you can't intervene in a world you can't see. Said differently, you can't disown that which you've never owned. So what I do with my clients often is I'll say, okay, let's go through all the things you inherited, because we are social and historical beings born into beliefs and interpretations. I was born into beliefs and interpretations that big boys don't cry. That if I do feel my feelings, that I'm a wussy or somehow lower than everybody. And so it wasn't until I could look at those objectively and go, oh my God, that's not mine. That's marketing. I was marketed to believe that's true for me. And I'm going to get a little esoteric here. My belief is that God is like electricity. It just says yes. But electricity and God say the same thing, which is, do you have the infrastructure? Have you built the body? You can plug up an iPhone with the infrastructure, but do you have the infrastructure for a Tesla? Do you have the infrastructure for a city, a house, a country? The electricity will always say yes. So our job always is to build the infrastructure that can plug up to that thing. And so the short answer to all of that is get help. Get help. That's what we're here for. There's a lot of other people who do it, but help.
I love the analogy, because obviously if you don't have the infrastructure to support the electricity, you either on one side get no power and the device doesn't work, or you overload the circuit and cause a fire.
That.
Because you gave it too much it wasn't ready for. So I know you mentioned get help. I'm going to make you give us a little bit more than that, if that's okay.
Yes.
So let's dive in. I don't want you giving away the secret sauce. Obviously, we want people to go get the book and participate in your programs. But how do I upgrade my infrastructure?
Done. Easy. Here it is. Whether you go back to the past or not, it's not actually necessary that we go to the past and sit on a therapist chair and go through all the things that occurred. The body keeps the score. The body's a living library. It's like a bathtub full of water. And the water is the traumas and the breakups and the breakdowns and all the stuff we've been through over 20, 30 years, right? That we never let cycle all the way through, because we are in and out beings. We take food in, food comes out. We take water in, water comes out. We have traumatic things that happen. We have breakups, we lose jobs, we feel shame around some addiction, and we stuff it and suppress. And so heart disease, all the other things, this is what happened to me, by the way. Just side note, I was 25 and I was going to die because I was suppressing so much of what was occurring in my life. And so the game is to put yourself in a position, whether you go back in the past or not, where your body starts to receive signals that there is something to celebrate, right? Our natural baseline is joy, is creativity, is harmony. That's who we are. There's a big distinction between what's normal in society and what is natural. And I'm speaking to what is natural. What is natural for human beings is joy, creativity, harmony. So what I have my clients do, and anybody listening to this podcast could do this today, and I guarantee you it will work, is I have them set 3 to 5 alarms in their phone every single day. Every time the phone goes off, they go into reasonless joy, spontaneous joy. Just see the alarm, bang, Pavlov. Oh my God, life is good. I am living the greatest life that I ever could be living, right? And what that does, because the body doesn't speak English, neither does God, right? It speaks frequency. And so what it does is it sends these signals from the brain to the body. Oh my God. And everybody's in unison going, there's something to celebrate. Life is good. And we know now in science that if you take a microscope and we put it over you, Seth, and we just keep breaking you down and breaking you down and breaking you down, there'll be nothing there. There'll be no thing, just vibration in space called Seth, right? And so, then everything is vibrating. Okay, so if I'm celebrating 3 to 5 times a day, 3 to 5 times a day for no reason or any reason, right? I have a lot of successful clients who come to me because I have all the toys, I got the $1 million houses and all the stuff. And I have friends who have the private jets and all the stuff. And all of them say, Preston, you're the richest one in the room. Not because you have the most money, because I don't. I usually have the least amount of money in the room, right? But I'm the fullest. And I'm full because I'm choosing to experience my life as all needs met right here, right now. Yes, I'll climb that mountain. I'll declare that goal and I'll go after another million and I'll do this and I'll do that, but not because that's my God. I'll do it because it's fun. I do it because it's interesting, but I've already won. And to me, that's one of the most important mentalities. And it's what I'm writing about in this book that any human could have wherever they are.
That is beautiful. I love the daily homework assignment, home joy assignment.
Yes.
I will absolutely add that for sure. So tell us a little bit. You have a number of different courses and programs. Tell us how folks work with you from day one to the highest level that you've got.
Yeah. So my wife and I, we've been together for 11 years. And for 9 of those years, we've been leading a embodiment workshop called the Bridge Experience. And you could call it leadership, you could call it embodiment, you could call it somatic work, you could call it nervous system work. But the crux of the work is that we are the workshop. So it's not a seminar, it's not Tony Robbins, it's not Landmark. We're not going to take any notes per se. You are the workshop. And so we teach and support people in expanding their capacity, right? I almost got a divorce with this same wife a couple years ago. And I took on my same work and I got support and started working on it. And now we have one of the best marriages. It is a new marriage. We actually burned the rings, we did a whole new ceremony. But the point I'm making here is that left to our own devices, we'll always go back to homeostasis. And so if you want to work with us to expand homeostasis, if you want to amplify what's available, it's the bridgemethod.org, bridgemethod.org. And then I have a book coming out in September called Spiritual Millionaire, which speaks to a lot of what we're talking about here. That's prestonsmiles.com/book. either one of those would be perfect start to it being introduced to our world.
Awesome. Well, we are congratulations on all of that. And we will most definitely have you back when the book comes out to specifically promote the book.
Thank you.
What do you, I mean, your passion is obvious. What do you like best about what you're doing?
Bro, Seth, bro. I really genuinely love humans. So like I grew up in special needs classes, and I was kind of like the ugly friend, and I'm sexy now. But
And modest.
yes, because I've like lived a lot of life, like the spectrum, right? And would at some level be considered a 1%er in the world right now. And I've been one of the poorest people and worked in grocery stores at night with my mom. My dad, had a drug issue his whole life, and died of it. And I think I just have so much compassion, and I get high. This is my honest truth. I get high on seeing people like reclaim their lives, because I genuinely believe that we've been marketed to. And it doesn't mean that innovation and climbing the mountain isn't important. It's super important. But I think that most people are just sophisticated addicts. Again, I work with some really rich dudes, and they will say the same. I'm like, why'd you hire me? It's because you're richer than me. That's why I hired you. I have 100 million. You have maybe 7, right? And yet, why are you happier? And I love helping people really love their lives. That's the answer.
That's a beautiful answer. Do you remember the moment of decision when you said something worked for you and you said, I want to help other people go through what I went through? Take us back to that time.
Yeah, it kind of came after me. I wasn't like what I'm doing right now. I never was like, I want to be a coach when I grow up or anything of that nature. I was so scared at 25 that my heart was going to stop, because it was also in my family, that I made such drastic changes. My diet, what I was consuming, I started really questioning things. And then when the answer came back, I'd even question the answer. And so it was like this beautiful game that was being played. And my cup was so full that just friends and family and like the mailman would be like, why are you so happy all the time? What the hell are you on? And it became a thing where I was like, should I do something with this? And so gradually I started seeing like I'm being set up for something. And like, to give you an example, when I was 15, some friends of mine asked me to go out and drink and do stupid stuff like we always did. And I had an intuitive hit, which I couldn't have even spelled intuition at 15, not to go. And I said no. And all those friends were shot within an hour. And my best friend, who I was on the phone with, was shot in the head and died. And that was like one of like, let's call it 11 moments like that, where at the time I had survivor's guilt. I had all kinds of stuff. Like, why did I say no? I didn't say no the day before. I didn't say no the day before that. And then I started getting that we try to figure stuff out with our heads. We think we're in control. We're not. And then for me, it's like, okay, well then I will surrender. There's 4 levels of consciousness: to me, by me, through me, as me. To me consciousness, victim, right? Oh, that world's happening to me. It's Biden's fault. It's Trump's fault. It's Seth's fault. It's my wife. It's the
It's always
dog.
my
Right?
fault.
Yeah, it's always Seth's fault, right? And then there's by me consciousness. This is the like go get 'em, like I'll make it happen. I'll will it into existence, which is beautiful. But the third one is where I like to play. And that's through me consciousness. And that's where I wake up every day and I say, who would you have me serve? Who would you have me bless today? What would you have me say? God, take the wheel. Like seriously, not, and I'm not religious or dogmatic, right? Everybody's God is the same God for me. So everybody's God is welcome. But I believe that there's something bigger, something greater that's knows. And when we yield, ooh, that was beautiful. When we yield to that thing, then it has more spaciousness to guide us. And so I've been really in tune with that intuitive voice or hit inside of my body, and it hasn't failed me yet. I literally, this is a crazy story. I'm just going to give you the brief clip notes. I was on a blind date, which I didn't want to go on. And I asked Spirit, am I supposed to go on this date? And resoundingly, yes. And I'm like, I don't want to go, but I hear you, right? Every time that voice has been clear, it's saved my life every time. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to listen because you saved my life. I go on the date and we get there and they oversold the show and there's all these things. And the guy adds 2 extra seats to a front row. I sit down, my date sits down, and next to my date is my wife. And I instantly knew she was my wife. And from that, right, like literally the moment I looked at this person, I went, oh my gosh, she didn't know it. She didn't even know it for months, but I knew that's my wife. And so the voice, again, has put me in these positions where my life has been completely altered. And I don't think I'm special, Seth. I think the same thing happens to you and everybody else who's listening to this podcast. The only difference sometimes is how available we are to hear it.
That is beautiful. I think I missed it. What was the 4th level? We got to me, by me, through me.
As me.
As me. Got it. Awesome. Tell us a little bit about your podcast.
Yes, Preston Smiles Show. It's sort of like what's occurring here. I just take intuitive guidance, if you may, anything that's coming up for me. I have 4 children under 6, 5 businesses, 5 houses, 1 wife, and a whole bunch of people that I take care of, including holding and supporting and coaching people. And so I use all of that as the backdrop for what I speak about on the podcast. And then I have a series called Spiritual Millionaire, where I interview people who've achieved big things who are also identify as spiritual.
Awesome. Well, we know your time's incredibly valuable. We greatly appreciate you spending some of it with us. This has been Seth Greene for Sharkpreneur with Preston Smiles. Go check out PrestonSmiles.com, PrestonSmiles.com/book, and all things Preston all over the internet. Preston, thank you again for joining us.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone, for watching or listening. We will talk to you or see you next time.
Why do so many businesses struggle while others seem to explode overnight? Do you wish you had the secret to this type of exponential growth? Now, I've scaled more than 20 businesses to over $100 million, and it's not just luck. In my new book with Mark Tim, Mentor to Millions, you'll learn the repeatable framework I use in all my business ventures for massive success. Order at kevinmentor.com and get over $1,000 in bonuses. Head to kevinmentor.com.